Google actually did a study, and they show a research that says 70% of consumers today make a buying decision before they speak with a business for the first time, which is crazy, right? Now, that's not just any decision, that is a buying decision.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sehgal show. Today, on our show, we are going to interview someone who is a husband, a strategist, founder, an INC 5000 CEO, an acclaimed business strategist and marketing expert. By the age of 33, he has built up a $10 million company from scratch. His unique blend of storytelling and direct response marketing played a pivotal role, making him the beacon of hope for other fellow entrepreneurs. And with ventures in film, including a Hollywood documentary and a deep rooted passion as a first generation immigrant, his expertise in social media marketing positions him as a go to authority for business growth. Without any further ado, let's welcome McBilly to our show today. Hey, man.
What's going on, Sahil? What's going on, everyone?
Oh, good. Thank you
Happy
so
to be
much,
here.
man, for giving your time. It's a pleasure
Absolutely, man.
having you.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Man, your journey is really inspiring, first of all. And I can also personally relate being a first generation immigrant. So I want to know, give us a brief walkthrough of like, how did you started into this entrepreneurial world? When were you bitten by this entrepreneurial bug?
Yeah, man. Well, it just goes way back. So, like you mentioned, first generation immigrant here. I pretty much grew up in the Philippines. I'm half Chinese, half Filipino. And, growing up, especially in the Philippines, you kind of really need to get into like sales and entrepreneurship, because over there, and unlike compared to America, you could just find a great job, kind of stay in that role and, retire. Over there, it's tough that way. So back in high school, bro, like my mom, I basically told my mom that I've always wanted to get into entrepreneurship. Back then, like when I was going into high school, I was in high school getting into college. I told my mom that I wanted to get like, study BS in management and business, administration. But then she told me probably one of the best advice that I got from my mom is she was like, look, you could learn, business and entrepreneurship with books, experience and trainings and courses. But what you should do is, instead of going to college for it, you should learn something technical in college and then apply that into business. And so that's probably one of the best advice that I got. And so in college, I majored in web development and got into tech. And ultimately, my parents were separated. And so I got a call from my dad giving me the opportunity to move here in the US. And mind you, I've never spoken with my dad, for more than 10 years at this point. So it was a huge risk. But I really wanted to connect with my dad. And so, I basically like left my whole life in the Philippines, and then started from scratch here in the US. And, when I first moved here, I just started doing like odd jobs here and there. And I got into, I worked as a med tech in a hospital. And it's actually kind of funny. I know when we met, a couple of weeks back at the super conference, I was with my business partner, and it's kind of funny. We kind of joke about it now, but we were both on the opposite sides of the needle. And so I used to work for the blood bank department, and I was working two jobs, trying to, figure this out and wanting to get into entrepreneurship. And then my business partner was donating and selling his blood at the blood bank. And so that's kind of how we met. And, I basically, this is back in New York. And I almost got into an accident because I was working two jobs, and basically I was driving from one job to the other. And I was like, probably only had like 4 hours of sleep, and almost got into an accident. And at that point, I just basically just asked myself like, yo, what am I doing with my life? And I just went ahead and like pursued, quit my two jobs, pursued entrepreneurship. And, that's how that's how my history kind of just started.
Oh, man. And which year was it when you moved to US?
2010, dude. 2010.
2010. And when you met your business partner, Preston, were you already trying to do hustle around the entrepreneurship, or you had no idea about you were doing only job?
No, so I was already hustling. So I quit my job 20 so 20 2016. So 2016 is when I quit my jobs, and then I met Preston. I met Preston actually in the Facebook group for ClickFunnels, and so we met each other. I would say like 2017, and we just kind of we became friends because we were like sharing strategies. Oh, I'm doing this lead gen strategy, and then he's doing his thing. And then essentially, where we actually really connected was we met each other in a mastermind in Puerto Rico, and this was in 2018. And so, I was already like hustling on my side. I had a couple clients here and there, but it didn't really. It wasn't until when we both. So basically, what happened is we met each other in a mastermind in Puerto Rico. And he had a list of prospects that he had, and then I built this like demo, a very detailed sales demo. And so when we met each other there, we really just became like really good friends. And then after that mastermind, we basically went home and we're like, you know what, dude, I have this list. Why don't we just try out your demo with my list, and then let's actually just try like a dual demo. And so we did that. And then right after the mastermind, we did 2 back-to-back sales demo using his list and then my demo. And dude, we made like $3,000 during that day. And mind you, that was a lot for us, back then. And so that's how our journey started.
Interesting. And what was the first business model that you jumped into it?
So our first business model, it's really being able to help people with lead generation, installing systems. It was like Facebook. I mean, this is like the V1 of this was us doing like Facebook leads, generating lead generation, and then installing like a CRM, and then building that out for people as a done for you, and with like the back end on coaching.
Wow, what the CRM was specific to Facebook?
The CRM was more for service-based professionals. Where we started was we really helped. So this is like way back when I was hustling stuff on my own. I was actually trying to serve like real estate, like realtors, real estate agents. And then Preston, he was an insurance agent. He had his own like insurance agency. But what we found was like the sweet spot between real estate agents versus. So if you think about it, so real estate agents, they're kind of like whale hunters, right? Because they have like the highest commission. There's a lot of them, but like the people that have actually the business, they're very small, right? Like the top 1%. Most real estate agents, they might have a license, but they're like part-time. It's kind of like it's very competitive, right? Now you can it's still a great market. But on the flip side of this, for insurance, they're usually like when you think about their like price points, they probably get like $100-$200 per client. Now it's like long term and it's very sustainable, but it's very small. And so the sweet spot that we found was like mortgage professionals, because they're still a good barrier to entry, because they're not like real estate agents who like everyone has like the real estate license, but they also get a pretty good comp. And we've helped over 1,000 professionals now. And so it's that model where we found like a sweet spot.
Right. So between the insurance, which was a low ticket, and between the real estate, which is a super high ticket or high ticket, and then you find a sweet spot for the mortgage agent, that would be in the middle grounds.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
And were you doing more of direct response marketing or were you more into the social media game?
So it's really, so we started with just direct response lead generation. That's where we started, which ultimately got us and led us to the social media and organic, right? If you think about it, when we started, dude, it was just straight up direct response. We learned from like some of the biggest greats, right? I saw that you also had Mark Joyner,
Right.
on your podcast, dude. I love Mark. He was actually at my wedding,
Oh, wow.
last year. And, we just started with like direct response, right? So learning from Dan Kennedy, so basically it's you create an offer. It's direct response lead generation. And then we create like the back end, right? So we have, speed to lead, automated follow-ups, creating a CRM and then coaching people on there and then creating like a really powerful, irresistible offer, right?
Right.
Now, one of the things that we saw though is this like there's really a change in how people make decisions now, right? So Google actually did a study, and they show a research that says 70% of consumers today make a buying decision before they speak with a business for the first time, which is crazy, right? Now, that's not just any decision, that is a buying decision. And so what we found is when you generate leads, whether it is through a call funnel, a lead magnet, a VSL in the very beginning, what we found is no matter how good you are on that front, people are going to Google you after, right? So literally they're like, hey, who's this guy? What's this offer, right? And so they're going to Google you. Like, and so when they Google you, what we've found is you want to be strategic in actually creating like an actual, it's almost like a secondary funnel. Now, this does not replace your current funnel, but you want to really optimize your social media to create a secondary funnel that will lead people where they think that they're doing their own research. But we're basically converted their whole customer journey when they Google you into this secondary funnel. And so, you want to be able to take exactly, hey, what are the objections that they have? How can we create that belief in order for them to feel like they're making that decision without them feeling pressured, right? And what we found, and so we actually did some research for our own clients, and on average, bro, they watch over 10 videos before they made a purchase for us, right? And so this was like very telling to me. I'm like, oh my God. So when we found that out, we essentially started applying this for our clients and how we serve them. And then we also applied it for us. And so now we've been very, very strategic in the sense that it's almost like you have to create two funnels now, right? Where you want to create the secondary funnel because I know if they're going to be Googling you, well, I need to make sure that I can increase, your belief, through case studies. And then we have a process that we call that we're going to have to really create your big domino content strategy. And so what does that mean exactly? So for example, if you watch, Russell Brunson's like 10x secrets, and so for your listeners who are listening on this, the 10x secrets that Russell Brunson did, which is an absolute great masterclass, is this talk that he did where he basically sold $3 million in 90 minutes at the 10x Growth Con for Grant Cardone. And watching that, if you watch that, he talks about this concept where you need to find what is that big domino so that if you prove to people that this big domino is exactly what is going to help them achieve from where they're currently, their current situation to their desired situation, then they will ultimately want to buy your product or service. And so, for example, for Russell, that's funnels, right? If you think about it, he sells ClickFunnels, but he doesn't talk about ClickFunnels. He talks about the general idea of funnels. And so, so for us, when we work with, our clients, and we work, we started with serving loan officers and service professionals, but now we work with, high ticket coaches, agency owners, any business owners that are selling services. And so you want to find that, like, what is that big domino that if people will actually believe that that is something that can actually help them achieve that transformation or whatever it is that you're helping your clients with, then you want to reverse engineer all of your content to actually sell them on that big domino. Does that make sense?
Right, absolutely. And I watched that 10x secret masterclass. I remember when I was doing my first webinar in 2020, it was, I think. And I watched that video back to back 3 times. It's like a whole video in the ClickFunnels portal. Also, they have that.
Yeah.
That's like,
that was such a good,
yeah,
that was just like a masterclass in itself.
Absolutely. No doubt on that. When you're talking about this high ticket coaching, I want to stress on that because that's what I do basically. And I'm curious to know, you have seen the direct response marketing world, learn from the big giants like Dan Kennedy and all. So in the coaching space, I have, or I maybe yet to see that not a lot of people are using direct response marketing, especially when it comes to high ticket coaching. It's all on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all that stuff. What's your take on that? Have you tried that using direct response marketing for high ticket coaching? And what's your take on it?
So it's interesting. So what we found is you don't want to like start there, especially if you're doing like top of funnel content, right? So it's almost like you need to like divide up your content. And so what we found is like a good mix of both. So we actually created our own version where we have direct response branding. So we basically coined this term because we basically took the principles of direct response and combined it with the branding approach, right? Now, and when we actually spoke with Dan Kennedy about this, one of his direct response principles and even like rules is you don't want to start with branding, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's for like Coca-Cola and all these like big brands who have like unlimited budget that they can just like pay for, the Super Bowl commercial, right? And so we want to start with just direct response. I want to make sure that my actual budget, my ad dollars actually get me an ROI, right? But the thing that is important to note though, is the fact that, like the human behavior today, especially with how there's just so much like, there's so much claims that are happening through advertising today that there's just people are just generally like not trustworthy, right? And so there's just a massive distrust in the market. And so you are literally losing money today if you're just doing just direct response with no actual content, with no organic stuff, because people are going to Google you, right? And if they don't find anything that will prove that, hey, you're a real person, that they can align with, what it is that you're selling, whatever it is that, however you're helping them, you can still sell with just like, a VSL, a webinar, like that works. But if you want to lower your cost to acquire a customer, then having this secondary channel is going to be, it's almost needed at this point, because, people are going to Google you anyway. And with, the rising ad costs, dude, it's so, imagine just like, it's tough to just like have one acquisition channel and you're basically like putting all of your bets into like, Mark Zuckerberg, right? And he could just like up which he already has, he has already increased like the ad costs. And, with more people, getting into that, like the competition, it's just smarter to have this secondary, acquisition channel to lower ad costs and increase conversions.
Right. And for let's say, might be a selfish question for me itself. So I started on Facebook and I did Facebook. We did over $1 million, and I did Instagram like in the middle when I was over 500K. And in terms of now direct response marketing, how much emphasis would you say? Like, I have never tried direct response marketing, and when I went to this whole super conference event, it was a new world for me to see how you were doing the shock and awe packages, and then that boxes, physical that thing. So what emphasis would you give or suggest me to get into this apart from Facebook and Instagram game?
So, okay. So let's actually dive deeper into that then. So what do you mean by this? So, because you mentioned you're already doing, are you doing Facebook ads already or just like organic content?
We are still doing organic. Sometimes we have ran ads on our master classes and 5-day challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we have never done any physical kind of that direct response, a letter or that, all that stuff.
Oh, got you. Okay, wait. Well, I just want to be clear here too. When I mean direct response, like principles and strategies, I am not just referring to physical. Like that could still be offline, right? So both online and offline, that can still be a direct response. I mean, the direct response principle just means that when you are running ads, you want something that it has, I mean, that's where the word comes in, is you want an actual response immediately so that I know that this ad is actually making me money, right? So for example, if you think about it, when you run, whether it's a lead magnet or a VSL, if I run an ad, I know that if you click on this and you opt in, I know that like, oh, somebody opted in on this ad versus like a brand awareness ad or like a reach ad where, like, I don't know, right? You're just seeing the ad and I don't know if you're interested, and that's what Coca-Cola does when they run a Super Bowl commercial, right? There's no call to action necessarily. And so, I mean, for you, bro, like if you want to just start applying this, were you able to, I mean, you saw our talk in the Super
I made
Conference,
all the
right?
notes.
So the biggest thing that I will say is you can immediately apply direct response principles to whatever it is that you're currently doing for Facebook, for Instagram, right? For LinkedIn, for YouTube. And so when you think about it, it's like first, so there's 5 elements of, and this is for, if you are listening to this and you want to immediately apply this into your social profiles, like there's 5 elements that you can optimize your profiles for, right? So first is your name, right? So you could you could actually SEO optimize your name, adding in, what keywords that you're serving for your clients with. That way you can rank well for it. Second is optimizing your bio. Very important is you really want to be very clear with, what is the problem you're solving, who are you solving it for, and how are you solving it for them, right? And then having a very clear call to action in the links in your profiles. So this is one of the mistakes that I see is so many people, they could put like a link tree there and then give them a lot of different options. You could go to my website, download my challenge, download my lead magnet, download this, download that. And so the problem with that is if you give, too many options, well, people won't know what to do. Right. And so a confused buyer always does not buy. Right. And so you just want to have one specific call to action, add it into your link. That way, that and here's the most important part here is you want to make sure that you have tracking. Okay. That way. So here's the other thing for us, when we work with clients, part of our onboarding process and part of our done for you service is we will install tracking for your organic channel, right? Very important. Because that way I know if I create this piece of content, well, I want to know that this video actually generated ROI for me. Or if not, it can be a direct ROI where that video, for example, has a link and that link, for example, like this is in YouTube, right? So in YouTube, I could have a link there. And if I click on that link, it could go straight to a booking calendar, right? So that is a direct that's a direct attribution, or it could also be an indirect attribution, right? Meaning maybe they opted in through a lead magnet or they watch my VSL, but then from there on the thank you page, I could add these videos. And then once they go through that, I could still see their history, right? I could see like, oh, well, this person that watched this video, so this person opted in. So you got 2 people that opted in. This first person watched my VSL, and then on the thank you page, after scheduling that call, watch this specific video. But then the second person scheduled after watching the VSL, but did not watch the video. And now I could correlate if this actually converted. Well, now I could actually see, how much higher the conversion rate is when they watch these specific videos, right? And so that's part of it. And so you want to optimize your profile link. The fourth thing is you want to optimize your handle as well. Very few people like kind of think about this because, you want to build a brand, right? And so if I Google you, I should be able to, find you in Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn. And it should be, a same profile photo, same name, same handle, right? So the reason why handles are also really important is, for example, this very example right now is if you're being interviewed in a podcast and they're like, hey, how can people get in touch with you? Well, it's going to be super easy of like, all right, guys, to just, add me, connect with me in, Instagram. It's just at McBilly, right? Like that's just my name versus like, add me, at so-and-so and with like weird numbers, right? And then the last part here is you want to optimize your content. No matter what profile you're in, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you could pin content to the very top of your profile, right? And so you want to be able to pin content there that is almost really like, it's like a mini VSL, like a mini video sales letter, where you are immediately addressing, why should people, want to work with you? What is the problem that you're ultimately solving and how you're doing it? And then having a call to action so that, that even though you're creating content, because, creating content organic channel is really important, but I want to make sure that when I'm creating content that my time isn't getting wasted, right? Like I want to be able to create content that directly affects my bottom line.
True. Absolutely. It makes sense. In terms of that, now you talk a lot about Facebook, I know, and then videos, what I watched the presentation over there as well. So if you have to start your journey, let's say from 0 to 10 million today, from 2024, what would you do differently and what platform would you recommend or prefer to use?
So my approach on this is you want to have what's called a focus platform, because it is impossible to be able to, especially if you're starting out, to be in all the platforms effectively, right? Meaning if you're going to be creating like a custom, strategy for each platform, I mean, it's going to be close to impossible, right? Especially if it's just you. And so you just want to have like a focused platform where you're choosing one platform to start with. But the cool thing about this, especially with, how all the social media platforms has really evolved now, you could easily take one piece of content and, you're focusing on one platform, but you could repurpose and repost, and transform them into all of the other platforms, right? And so if it was me, I mean, the main thing for me it depends on like what service that you're trying to solve, right? But what I would say is you just want to choose one platform that you could actually be strategic with. And if it was me, I would probably start with YouTube. And the reason why YouTube is really powerful is because it's an 80-20 rule, right? So if I'm creating like long form content first, that long form content I can now repurpose into, short form content. But the cool thing with YouTube is that it's the second biggest, search engine in the world, right?
Right.
And so when I'm creating content, I learned this concept from Mark Joyner. And he talks about this concept called the Jaime principle, meaning high impact, minimum effort. Right. So for me, I always want to make sure that my effort is amplified. So the cool thing with YouTube is if I create a piece of content, especially if I am strategic with it, where it is SEO optimized, well, not only am I creating content that will help me lower my ad costs, because it's going to, overcome objections. It's going to help build that belief, position me as an authority, build trust, and then increase my sales on the front end. But on the back end, I'm also building an organic, channel, because the videos, dude, I have videos from like 3 years ago that still generate leads for us. And so, that translates to like sales, right? And so I would say like I would start there and then ultimately build out and repurpose the content so that you become omnipresent where you are in all of the channels, right? Now, so the reason why this is really important is because there's a rule. There's this like 7-11-4 rule by Google. Have you heard of this?
No. 7-11-4.
Yeah, so Google did research. You know, I told you about you know, people are making buying decisions today before they speak with the business for the first time.
Right.
And then the other concept that they talked about was this 7-11-4 rule, which means that people generally need at least 7 hours of, you know, engagement and content with you through 11 different touch points and 4 different locations. Meaning that because people are Googling you, you know, I want to check out like, hey, I want to check out all the different areas that you have, you know, whether it's your website, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, your Facebook. And so the cool thing about this is if you create content, I mean, again, the survey that we did, on average, our clients would watch over 10 videos before they made a purchase with us. And so what you want to do is how can you almost like shorten the gap, right? Like how can I deliver and shorten the gap so that people can actually consume 7 hours of content before they hop on a call with us, before we actually sell them. That way they're pretty much pre-sold. At that point, like when they hop on our demo, I mean, they're pretty much pre-sold, right? Because you've laid out that thing, you've really laid out your big domino already. And then you back it up with social proof, your case studies. And so ultimately they hop on those calls and they're like, all right, you know, they might have a couple of questions and it's really going to be more of like an objection handling call, but they're almost like pre-sold. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So they are sold already. They're just coming on a call to get close, basically.
Pretty much.
That's what we can say. Okay, cool. And then did you guys do research on this, like 10 videos, which you mentioned? Are they more of like they're okay with short form videos or long form videos? Did you guys have some data on that?
Oh, yeah. Great question. So this was more of like, this was an internal survey for us. And so we didn't necessarily break them up into short form and long form. But what I will say is it's a mix of both because we literally have both. And it just follows that 7-11-4 rule, right? Because if it's just, yes, you want people to consume long form or short form, but having that multi-channel approach allows them to see that like, oh, not only am I not opting in to, you know, not only are they opting in through maybe like the ad through the VSL through like your regular sales funnel, but if you have a back end of, let's say, your YouTube channel, and then they Google you and then you connect through Instagram, right? And even within Instagram, maybe I'm watching your reels, but then I'm able to see your stories and we're able to like build a relationship there. Well, now you're actually hitting them in 4 different channels, you know, and so this ultimately builds more trust. And so that's what we found.
Right. Makes sense. And your content speaks a lot about authority as well. That's what you're at the back of the screen. I can see authority brand. So on one of your, I was doing some rabbit hole search about you. So you mentioned one line, how to position as an authority in your prospect's mind who prescribes solutions rather than just selling a service. How do you describe that? How do you explain that part? How do you set that as an authority?
This is so important, especially today. You know, especially because when you think about it, actually a couple of weeks back, we were at Dr. Robert Cialdini's, you know, 40th anniversary. So for your listeners who don't know, Robert Cialdini, he is the godfather of influence, and his book, which is Influence, highly recommend reading that book. It's the science of persuasion. And it was basically, it's the #1 book that Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett recommends for influence. And so in that book, he outlines 6 different principles for influence, and authority is one of them. Because if you think about the science of persuasion, we, just human behavior wise, we look to authority figures when we are unsure, right?
Right.
And so what does that mean? So, who are authorities in your life, for example? Like if my faucet, starts leaking and there's problems there, dude, I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm going to call a plumber, right? If my car breaks down, I'm going to take it, to the shop, and I'm going to talk to a mechanic, right?
Right.
So we look to experts. And so it is important for you, if you are not having, if you're struggling to make more sales, then the biggest problem here is you want to reframe the whole sales process as if you are a doctor, right? So what does that mean? Well, it's different, right? So for a doctor, if I'm going to a doctor, well, it's more of like I am, I'm telling them my problem, and then now you essentially you can now help them by essentially prescribing solutions as if you are a doctor, right? Instead of the other way around where you're just like selling.
Right.
And so the easiest way to do this would be to really reverse engineer again. The process is whatever acquisition channel you have right now, you want to be able to create a secondary funnel, a funnel that they are the ones that are initiating it, right? Because that way they feel like they're the ones that's doing the research, right? Because
Right.
if I give this to you, well, you know that it's a sales pitch, right?
Right.
Generally, right? If I'm running an ad and there's research behind this, where if they see an ad, they have generally lower trust because they know like, oh, people paid for this. If it's
Right.
an organic thing, well, I know that, okay, Google is not going to put this, on the front page if it's not trustworthy, right? But now SEO, that can take a long time as well, right?
Right.
And so what we want is we want to get the best of both worlds, meaning we're running ads in the front end, but then we're also building a back end for your organic channel. And so being able to really get them to really believe that big domino, so that's part of our process,
Right.
is this is how you could be positioned as an authority, is by creating content that can really overcome that big domino for them, but then also backing it up with social proof, backing it up with case studies, and then ultimately getting people to consume that 7 hours of content across 4 channels and 11 different interactions, allowing you to really get pre-sold clients and buyers before they even speak with you.
Right. Right. That makes so much sense. Actually, that gave me a different even direction to think into that top of funnel, and then something that they want to consume rather than you want to push into their face.
Yes, exactly.
That is
Exactly.
important. And what's the best thing you have seen worked out really well in your business, where these people have came by themselves while doing their own research? It can be a platform, it can be any strategy, or maybe something you have implemented.
Well, I would say it's very important, and a lot of people don't really put a lot of focus on this. But you could also it's your YouTube channel, but then also your Google My Business. So, for example, when you think about it, because we know if we run ads, people will Google you, and
Mm.
so we've essentially optimized our YouTube channel and our Google My Business to be like a funnel. When you think about it, for Google My Business specifically, especially if you have a local, brick and mortar chain, or if it's all online, you want your Google My Business to almost model your personal profile. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, especially if you have, let's just say, a dental office, or if you have like a physical brand or a company brand, you might be like, well, it's a company brand. But what we found is it's that connection, right? So people work with people, not with businesses.
Right.
And so, and this was actually this is one of the things that I really enjoyed, when I give the presentations, is because there's a stat that we found that if you think about who are the CEOs that are actually known and have built a personal brand. And so, for example, when you look at, if you look at the CEOs, and this was like a fun game that we even did at the super conference,
I
which is
remember.
like the, one of the cartoons that I grew up really loving is like Pokemon. And, in that show, they have like, who's that Pokemon? Where it's kind of like this like shadow and you kind of guess who it is.
Right.
And so if you think about, do you guys know who is the CEO of Chrysler? Who's the CEO of, Ford? Who's the CEO of General Motors, right? What about the CEO of Tesla, right? So we know that that's Elon. The other CEOs, you probably don't have any clue. And the interesting stat about this is Tesla is literally 5 times more as far as like market cap than Ford, GM, and Chrysler all combined together. And that is because Elon has really built his personal brand, even as a company, right? And so what that means is, think about your Google My Business account. Think about your YouTube channel. Think about your social profile. Even if you have a company profile, think about your personal social profile as a business profile, right? And so we've essentially converted our Google My Business into, even though it's a company account, and same with our YouTube channel, even though it's a company account, you want this to be personal. So we've even uploaded like selfie photos, selfie videos, just like anything that can make your company become and connected as an attractive character, right? Having an attractive character in front of the company allows you to really make that connection and positions you as an authority instead of just, being like a lifeless, company. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. 100. That's great, man. Great insights that you're providing. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
What's the one piece of advice that you want to share with our listeners?
Who are generally your listeners?
So our audience is basically freelancers or SMMA people, agency owners, and then coaches.
So I would say it's being here. Okay, here's the biggest advice that I would say, especially now. There are so many distractions, especially with social media, with the news, with AI right now, there's so many like disruptions happening. I would say the biggest advice that I will say is you need to be saying no more times than saying yes, because there's so many distractions. And you just want to be very clear with what is the constraint in your business that you're trying to solve first, and then just put all your focus there, instead of trying to chase the next shiny object, right? Because there are so many. And so, for example, we're talking about, really creating a strategic, content strategy, creating a direct response, branding strategy for you guys. But it depends, right? Like, depending on where you are in your business, you have to be very clear on what is the current problem and constraint in your business, and then just attacking it, in all fronts, that specific problem, right?
Right. It boils back to the focus thing, basically, where you are focusing all your time, energy, efforts on it.
Yes, 100%, man, 100%. I mean, there's so many distractions, especially with AI. And I mean, we've really been using a lot of AI as well in our internal processes, helping our clients. And I just see there's so many tools, and it's just constantly popping up. And even though it's really, really powerful, it can also be a distraction, right? And so, just got to be careful with it. But yeah, man, I would say the highest ROI right now would just be to really incorporating that direct response branding strategy into whatever it is that you're doing now, right? Whether you're running ads, having that back end on like a content machine is going to be really powerful, because it's going to lower your ad acquisition costs, and it's going to increase conversion rates. And more importantly, which is the best part, is now ultimately you will not be reliant on Mark Zuckerberg and just like giving him money,
Right. Absolutely. That makes sense. Amazing, man. Where can listeners find more about you online and all, or if they want to learn?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Visit my website, authoritybrand.com. You could also just add me in social, whether Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's at McBilly. You could also check me out in YouTube. We have a ton of videos there, helping, people. And you could see, what is that big domino strategy that I talk about. But yeah, man, happy to help. If you guys need anything, if you guys also need help with, building out your content, content flywheel, content machine, and really, implementing that direct response branding strategy, feel free to reach out.
Amazing, man. The stuff that you handed over there at the conference as well, 30-day content roadmap, that was amazing resource. I went through it and I saw all the hook lines that you did. That was amazing, man.
I love it. Have you already started applying some of them?
We are gonna be getting heavy on IG now, so that exactly what we just discussed today. Our goal is exactly to set up that. So my major source was Facebook, as I said before. Now we are going heavy into the top of the funnel, making sure that we are creating enough pieces of content so that the 11 touch points which you mentioned. So that's the plan actually is. So now I'm gonna be using that 30-day content roadmap. So it's gonna be coming handy with me.
Awesome. So, awesome. Yeah. I mean, well, especially also for your listeners, we also have like a Making an Authority, course. If you guys need that, dude, I'm so excited for you to start applying that. Let me know too if you have any questions on how to apply that. And yeah, man, looking forward to see, how that really helps your business, dude.
Absolutely, man. I'm going to be dropping all the links on the show notes. So make sure to check it out. And if you allow, McBilly, I can drop that link of that 30-day content roadmap as well. I find it very helpful. I don't know if it's a personal resource or very exclusive.
Well, so that was an exclusive offer or a gift for the super conference.
Then I'll keep it confidential.
But I could actually give when we have a separate link for a different resource. So
send it to me on the Facebook, and I will make sure to attach that in the notes so that people can also look at it. I found it really helpful, so that was amazing. Thank you so much, man, for your time and for sharing all the gold nuggets that we discussed about. Thank you so much once again.
Oh, dude, absolutely, man, absolutely.
Amazing. So all the people will be coming up with another episode very soon. Till then, stay tuned. Take care. Bye.